What's up, everybody? My name is Chris. Thank you for joining this channel. If you are someone who struggles with writing, you want to write a book, you struggle with being consistent in your writing, this video is just for you. I'm going to be teaching you and giving the best advice that I can give as a 6-book author, and I'm excited to give that to you. So if that's for you, if you are someone who struggles, this video is for you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and do all the other formalities. So, that being said, see you on the other side. So this video is for people who are writing not to have to go back to square one when they are writing, and for people who are at square one wanting to get to the end of their book. So the first tip I would give is know where your book came from. Know what the source is of your book. For example, my first book, although it was a fiction book, it was from God. God told me to write this book, right? And so because God is the source of where this book came from, that means he's going to be the source of where I continue to get information from. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I wrote a book about, well, God wanted me to write a book about Moses, his story from kind of birth, how he was born up until him leading the people out of Israel, but made it modern day. And so in order to do that, of course, I had to read the Bible multiple times, the same passages. And on top of that, I had to go to God a lot of times. I had to write with God, write in a secret place. Why? Because he was the source of this book, and I'm not saying that all of your books may come from God. Some may come from, you may have an idea of a book from a TV show, you know what I'm saying? Like, which has happened a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? You may get an idea from, a person telling their testimony, and, you just get an idea like, oh, that'll be a good book. You know what I'm saying? But, go to that person and be like, hey, your story inspired me. I'd like to write a fiction book about you. Can I know more about your story? And sit down, interview, ask the questions, whatever the case may be. There were many times where I would write or, type, because I did on my laptop. There were many times where I would type and I would get stuck. And I would have written about 2 to 3 pages. I'll get stuck and I'll be like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. But that's because I started writing without my source. And then I'll go to God, and God told me to erase an entire chapter because you did it without me. You know what I'm saying? So for those of you who are getting their book from God, it is very, very important that you go to God and you write with God, right? I'm not saying you have to write in your secret closet every single time. What I am saying is invite him into your writing space wherever you are writing, because he is your source. The point is, you need to know where the source of your book is coming from, because that will be where you go to get the manuscript. That's the word. That is where you'll go to get the rest of the manuscript for your writing. So if you're going to write a book, you need to know where it came from. The next advice that I can give you is to have different intake methods. Okay, you want to have 2 to 3 good intake methods. And what I mean by intake is sometimes you'll be driving and you'll start getting ideas about the book that you're writing, but you're driving, so you can't type them out. So an intake that I have is voice memo or voice recording. I will record the ideas that are coming to my head and just talk them out. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I would even record the dialogue that I'm hearing my fictional characters say out loud. And then listen back to it and just type out what I'm listening to. You know what I'm saying? That's an intake method. When I'm saying intake is how you are intaking information so that you can later use for another time. Another intake method that you can use is, of course, note cards or sticky notes, handwriting. You can do an outline. Whatever you need to do, you need to come up with a way for you to be able to get intake or take take in information when you're not in the space of writing. Third best advice that I can give you is you need to write in sprints, okay? No, I do not mean go outside and run sprints while you're writing. Sorry, dad joke. What I do mean is, I used to do track and field, and when we would be practicing, even though I was not a runner, when we'd be practicing, we'd have to do the bigs. Would have to do 4x1s, 4x2s, 4x3s. It was just for cardio. That's just what our shot put coach had us doing. But we have to do 4x1s, 4x2s, 4x3s, whatever the case may be. And I translated that into the way that I write. I would sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna write 4 times for 30 minutes. And so I would sit down, and for 30 minutes, I would put a timer on for 30 minutes. I'm not distracted. I'm gonna be fully engaged in my writing. And after I finish writing, I'll stop, take a breath, do whatever I need to do to regain the consciousness to be able to focus again. Whether that's going to get a drink, whether it's going to get something to eat, snacks, whatever the case may be. Don't eat a lot. Don't like eat meals while you're writing, but like snack, you know, and then do another 30, and then do another 30, and then do your last 30. Okay. The reason you're doing this is so that you just don't free write without any end. That gives you, that kind of burns you out, because you keep writing without any finish line. And so it feels like you're just going, right? When you write in sprints, you write with meaning, because you know you're only writing for 30 minutes. You write more focus because just of the time frame. You know, some people do a lot better with pressure. I'm one of those people, you know, and so write in sprints. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. If you're someone who needs less time, write 4 times for 15. If you're someone who needs more time, write 4 times for 60 minutes or 75 minutes, or whatever the case may be. I'm normally a person who can write for an hour or 3. I've written for 4 hours before. You know, it's just a matter of how I'm feeling in that moment. You know what I'm saying? But just set realistic expectations and realistic goals. The 4th best advice that I can give you is for you to write as yourself. You need to write from your perspective. Don't try to be like another author. Don't try to be like anyone else. Write as you. They already have enough copycats out there. There's already enough people who aren't writing from a place of self, because they don't know themselves. They're not okay with who they are. And so they try to become something else. They try to write like someone else. And that's why they struggle writing, because it's not them. You know, they don't normally write, you know, sexual context books, but because it works for people, and there's a lot of people who like those type of books. Now you're writing like that. And that's not even who you are. You know what I'm saying? And so you want to write as yourself. You know, when you write as yourself, you won't cross any boundaries. You know exactly who you are. You know the things that you write for. And so it's going to be very, very important that you understand who you are, so that you can write the best version of your book as possible. I remember hearing, talking to a publicist here at the coffee shop, and they're saying that they look so grieved. I said, hey, are you okay? And he was like, I'm sorry, she was saying, I am okay. I'm kind of grieved just a little bit, because I just read 30 inserts of first chapters of 30 people who want me to publicize their book. But I'm about to go tell 30 people no, because they all sound the same. They all have no personality, no feel, no depth. It all sounds the same. They sound like the last 30 people that I had to tell no to. Can you imagine being a publicist and you have to go tell 30 people, I'm not going to publicize your book? Mind you, remember, this is money for her. This is money for her. Here is a publicist who would rather wait for people to write from their perspective, be real with themselves, write raw and authentic material, than make money off of 30 people who sound the same, right? You need to write as you. You need to be okay with who you are. And if you're not, you need to go to God and you need to get in his face, because the more you know him, the more you'll know yourself, and the more you start to accept who God is in your life, the more you'll start to accept who you are to you. The fifth best advice that I can give you: stop waiting to start writing. You probably heard this 1,000 times. Ready is not a feeling. I'll write when I'm ready. It's not an emotion. It's not a feeling, right? Stop putting it off. There are people who are waiting on you. I talked to another publicist. This time I was in a tire shop. I talked to a publicist in a tire shop. I said, if you can give the best advice to someone who struggles writing, what would you tell them? You know what he told me? He said, I would tell them that it's very prideful for them to keep putting their books off to the next day, thinking that their audience or their target market or audience has another day to live. And I'm talking to those people who are writing, books on how to get out of addiction, how to get out of lust, God books, mental books, health books, all the things. I'm talking to those people. He was talking to those people. What makes you think that the people that you're writing to have another day to wait for you to be ready? That was a slap in the face. But it's true. The people don't have time to wait. There are people waiting on your writing, your thinking, the way you process things, so that they can get out of the hole that they're in. So, advice number 5, don't wait till tomorrow, write today. That's just a few advice that I just wanted to give. I'm thinking about doing a paid masterclass on how teaching people how to write their books. I wanted to give a more in-depth teaching on how to finish any book that you start. Do you know that 97% of people who start a book never finish? 97% of people who start a book never finish. That's crazy. Only 3% of people finish a book. I want to raise that number. I want to help raise that number. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, definitely reach out, comment, and say, right. And, I'll think about it. I really will. I am considering it. So that being said, thank you for listening. I hope this helps. I hope you become a better writer just by listening to this. Write right now. Don't wait. All the things. Yep, I think that's it. See you guys later. Peace.